There's a moment when no contact feels like it's making them forget about you. They're not reaching out, the urge to text them is getting worse, and everything those experts have told you is starting to feel useless. Now, no contact often looks like it's stopped working right before an avoidant reaches out to you. But other times, it really has stopped working, but only as a strategy to win them back. Now, before you break no contact, text them, call them, or decide it was all pointless, let's figure out which is actually happening. Because there is a real difference between no contact failing and no contact feeling like it failed because they haven't reached out yet. Now, one more thing before we go any further. I am not going to tell you that no contact always ends with them coming back. There are situations where that might not happen, and I'll cover that later in the video. But what matters right now is simple. Has no contact actually stopped working? Or does it only feel like it stopped working because they haven't come back yet? When most people imagine no contact working, they picture the other person immediately missing you, feeling regret, reaching out to you, owning their mistakes, and really fighting for you. And that's exactly what you would see if they were anxiously attached, but not from someone who is avoidantly attached. When avoidants first feel the weight of losing someone, they often withdraw even more. Acknowledging this fact is fundamental to understanding their behavior. So let me say that once more. Often, when they really start to feel that loss, they will withdraw even more. Now, that distinction is everything, because if you're only watching to see if they come back in a big, dramatic way, then you're going to misread the signs and think no contact has stopped working. And this brings us to a bigger issue. What happens when no contact goes on long enough that the doubt sets in? You start obsessing, ruminating, stalking their social media, thinking they've moved on, they might be with someone else, or maybe they're waiting for you to be the first one who reaches out. Now the anxiety becomes too much, and you text them, "Hey, I hope you're doing okay," or "I miss you, can we talk?" Maybe you find an excuse like it's their birthday or some holiday and you reach out just to see if they're okay. You might even tell yourself you're doing it just because you want to know that they're not suffering, depressed, or lonely without you. And maybe that's partially true. But there's a point where you have to be more honest with yourself. You're doing it out of fear. Fear you've lost them, fear they are completely fine without you, fear that you're the only one hurting, fear that no contact isn't working in the way that you hoped it would. Now, that fear is real, but feeling it does not mean it's true. Because as time goes by and the pain of losing them is becoming too much, your mind naturally starts filling in the details of what it can't see. And the story your mind tells you is this: they've moved on. They don't miss you. You're doing this for nothing. They never cared about you. No contact has stopped working. That story feels true. It gives your pain meaning, but it tells you nothing about what they are actually feeling. And if you act on that pain, if you reach out from fear, if you break no contact too soon, then you've ended the one thing that you actually have control over: your absence. And that's what allows them to feel what they've lost, decide what they want, and reach out to you when they're ready. Now, the reason this becomes difficult is that two different things can look similar. Avoidants learned early in life that needing people caused problems, so over time, their subconscious mind got very good at keeping feelings below the surface. Staying calm, staying self-contained, not letting emotions show too much, and that is not a performance. It's just how they learn to feel safe. Now, in the early days of no contact, that still works for them. They are genuinely more comfortable with distance than an anxious person would ever be. Pretending otherwise isn't going to help you, but keeping feelings pushed down is not the same as having no feelings at all. The feelings are still there, they're just being kept quiet by their subconscious. So here is what we really know. Most avoidant people experience emotions in a delayed or muted way. So early on, no contact can actually feel better for them because the pressure, vulnerability, or emotional intensity is gone. Later, sometimes much later, loneliness or unresolved feelings for you can start to surface, but only once their emotional defenses are starting to relax. Now, how long that takes depends on the person staying in no contact and the relationship itself. What you'll actually notice is this: things like how emotionally intense your relationship was, how smothered they felt in the relationship, and if hearing from you brings comfort or pressure, all affect how long it takes for no contact to work. Now, for some people, that takes days, for some it takes weeks, but for many people it takes several months or longer, and in some cases, they gradually just let go and move on. So, this is not simply about one moment, one choice, or one result. This is about the larger pattern underneath it, because avoidants tend to process relationships after the fact. After you're gone, after the pressure is off, after no one is asking them how they feel or asking them to explain why they're pulling away. The stronger way to look at this is simple. You have to give them the gift of your absence so they can feel what they've lost. Now, this is why I created the no contact safety net, because the hardest part of no contact is not understanding it. It's surviving the moments where your fear tries to talk you out of it. When they don't text, when they do text, when you start to feel like you'll lose them forever if you don't do the right thing. Now, that's when most people break no contact and start the cycle all over again. The no contact safety net gives you a clear plan for those moments. You'll know what to do when anxiety spikes, what not to say, how to respond if they reach out, and how to recover if you've already made some mistakes. Click the link below and get the no contact safety net. Now, once you stop measuring the situation from a place of fear, you can start to have some clarity. And this is where the pattern becomes easier to see. After you've been in no contact, when they do reach out, there are a few signs worth paying attention to. You might notice them watching your stories within minutes of posting them, liking your pictures on social media, sending random messages with no real context, or maybe just a joke. Sometimes they will talk to you for a few days, then disappear. Sometimes they'll be chatty, and other times just say a few words. So we have to be honest about this. Don't let those be a sign to break no contact and dive deep into conversations with them. Just accept them as signs they are thinking about you and starting to reconnect, while you give them more time to reach out in a meaningful way. There is a point, though, where the cost of ignoring the pattern becomes too high. So let's talk about situations where no contact doesn't necessarily lead them to coming back. And even if it does, you might not want them back. This might be difficult, but I'm going to be direct here because I don't want you to get hurt. If your partner is avoidantly attached and they cheated, then research shows they are much more likely to cheat again. Now, not every avoidant cheats, and even the ones that do can change. But this is not a small detail. This is a pattern. Statistically, they are much more likely to do it again. Now, If they move directly into a new relationship, I mean fast, like no real time has passed at all, not cheating, just rebounding, then that often means they've learned to use rebounds as a way to regulate their emotions, which means they're using another relationship to avoid processing what happened. This is important because rebounds are different. Sometimes rebounds are genuine attempts to move on. Sometimes they are emotional avoidance, and sometimes both are true at once. And you just have to know if them coming back is the right thing for you. Now, sometimes attachment patterns create so much friction that people find they are just incompatible, that neither of you could actually navigate your differences enough to stay together and be happy. And that's okay. You're allowed to care about someone, feel a strong connection between you, and recognize that you're better off just being friends. So look at what the situation is showing you over time. A healthy relationship is not one without problems. It is one where both people can stay emotionally connected, honest, and respectful while working through problems instead of escaping, shutting down, or pushing for constant reassurance. Now, that brings us back to the question we started with. Has no contact actually stopped working, or does it only feel like it stopped working because you can't see what's happening on their end? Now, for most people watching this, it's the second one. They've been quiet long enough that the doubt has taken over. However, no contact is still working on their ex. But when you ask the better question, the answer becomes more useful. Is no contact working for you? Are you thinking about the relationship less compulsively and more clearly now? Do you find yourself letting go of the pain and the anxiety? Are you getting clear on what you actually want, not just what you're afraid of losing? That is no contact working on the part that actually matters most. The real goal is to get yourself back on solid ground, because the more grounded you become, the less likely you are to act from fear. And fear is what really stops you from having the relationship you want. Now, you letting go or them coming back to you is just a byproduct of the work you've done in no contact. But coming back is not the same as change, and this is where most people make the mistake that ruins everything. Because when an avoidant finally reaches out after no contact, it feels like the hard part is over. It feels like you got the sign you were waiting for. But it also feels like if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, you'll push them away. Now, that's why things go sideways fast, and that's why we'll cover what not to do when an avoidant comes back in this next video. You can watch it right now, and I'll see you there.